guys, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I am a writer currently revising my debut women's fiction novel, and so on this channel you're going to find a lot of writing related content, story related content, so I really hope you like this video. If you do, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss future videos. So yeah, this video is going to be how to build romantic tension part 2. I did this concept about a year ago, how to build romantic tension, and it was a study of Pride and Prejudice specifically. So I took Pride and Prejudice and I broke down each of the beats that I felt really contributed to the romantic tension as a whole and establishing the love story. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it down below so you can go watch it after you're done with this one. But I thought since it's almost the anniversary of when I released that first video, I would go ahead and do a part 2. So Ever After came out in 1998 and it stars Drew Barrymore and Dougray Scott. It is a retelling of Cinderella. So it's about a young girl who loses her father and she's forced to serve in her own home for her stepmother and stepsisters as a servant. So she grows up in an unloving household except for the other servants that sort of take her in as their own. And then we've got Prince Henry, who is being forced into an arranged marriage, and all he wants is to abandon his life, believing that his privilege is nothing more than a burden. So like I said, Ever After is one of my favorite movies. I actually talked about it in my top 10 romantic films of all time. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it down below so you can watch that one as well. So I've probably seen that movie more than any other film ever. My sister and I, when it first came out, we saw that movie over and over. We watched it over and over again and actually memorized it. So we could say the entire thing from beginning to end. And I don't think I could quite do that anymore. I can't say my memory's that good. But that's how much I love it. Even still, it has like that specialness about it that I could just I could watch it over and over again. So I'm really hoping that you all enjoy it, and I'm going to go ahead and get into it. So number 1, the two lovers come from different backgrounds but share a similarity. So Prince Henry is being forced to marry out of duty, while Danielle is forced to serve her stepmother and stepsisters after her father passed away years ago. They both feel trapped and long for something more. Of course, neither of them knows this about the other at the beginning of the film. Henry believes Danielle to be a comtesse after she disguises herself to rescue one of the servants whom the Baroness, her stepmother, has sold to pay her debts. But he senses a rebelliousness in her that draws him to her. She is idealistic about the way the world should be. And though he's in a position to make a difference, he doesn't take advantage of his own circumstances, a fact that Danielle leads him to realize throughout the film. Number 2, circumstances bring them together. Every great love story has these chance meetings down pat. However, it's important that the circumstances bringing them together are meaningful to the overall story and help drive the arc of each of the characters. For example, Henry childishly attempts to run away from home, stealing one of Danielle's family horses. She chases him down, knocking him off his horse with an apple to the head. After she recognizes him, he pays her to remain silent. It is this payment that enables her to afford to buy back the man her stepmother has sold. Henry, of course, doesn't recognize her when she impersonates a noble in order to appear at court to buy him back. But when she's refused by the guard, it's Henry who must assert himself and order the servant freed. It's the first action he's taking in stepping into his role as a leader and someone who will change the system for the better. In fact, he later releases all of the servants who were set to be shipped off to the Americas. Danielle and Henry run into each other again at another chance encounter at the river, where Danielle confronts Henry for disregarding his responsibility. He is intrigued by her sense of purpose, and when she leaves him again, he takes it upon himself to seek her out. We also have some run-ins where Henry nearly finds out the truth about Danielle. Now, this is where the story beats don't perfectly align with Pride and Prejudice. I noticed that Ever After still has the same elements, but in a different order. So number 3 is going to be selfless act and change of perspective. Henry invites Danielle to go to a monastery with him, and along the way they get ambushed by a band of gypsies. She outsmarts them, demanding safe passage, and is told she can have whatever she can carry. She hoists Henry up onto her shoulders, which entertains the gypsies and resolves the dispute, saving Henry's life. Henry has fallen in love with Danielle and can trust her to open up about his reservations to be king. This also changes her attitude toward him. She used to find him arrogant, but is now allowing herself to admit that she cares for him. Now, number 4 is a new beat that wasn't present in Pride and Prejudice. I'm calling it Bad Guys Keep Them Apart. Just when we think these two are headed for a happy ending, and Henry has negotiated with his father to let him choose his own bride at the upcoming masked ball, Rodmilla discovers Danielle's secret that she has captured the prince's heart. Having her own plan to seduce Henry with one of her daughters, she locks Danielle away so that she can't make it to the ball, where Henry plans to announce their engagement. Number 5, the betrayal. Now, Leonardo da Vinci, who we see throughout the film acting as Henry's mentor, saves the day, and Danielle shows up just in time. Danielle plans to come clean to Henry and reveal her secret, but her stepmother beats her to the punch. Henry is shocked and humiliated, having fallen in love with a commoner. It's a scene of mutual betrayal, as she has betrayed him with a lie, and he rejects her for her true status. Number 6, all is lost. Danielle is heartbroken, but the plot thickens when Rodmilla sells her to Monsieur Le Pew, a wicked man who has had his sights set on Danielle. Everything is taken from her: her home, her family, even her freedom. Number 7, one final conflict. One thing I love so much about this film is that it isn't actually Henry who saves her. Danielle fights her way out of Le Pew's grasp just as Henry arrives. He asks for forgiveness for not accepting her true self. The two reconcile, and we have an extremely satisfying scene at the end where Rodmilla and her daughters are brought to court believing Henry intends to propose to Marguerite. Instead, they come face to face with a newlywed couple and are forced to bow to Danielle, now a royal. Afterward, Danielle and Henry live happily ever after. So there you have it. Those are all of the same beats that were present in Pride and Prejudice, but rearranged and incorporated differently for this different story. So I wanted to talk a little bit about each particular beat and what makes it so important overall in building romantic tension in your love story. So the first beat, they come from different backgrounds but share a similarity. You could also reverse this. They might come from the same background but are polar opposites. It's important that you have something that differentiates them and kind of makes them intrigued by the other and what their lifestyle would be like. But then also something that they can both relate to on the same level. In Pride and Prejudice and Ever After, you have two people from completely different backgrounds, different social ranks, but at the same time they see something in each other that they relate to. In the case of Ever After, Henry is really drawn to Danielle's strength of will. He sees this rebellious nature in her, this idealistic side of her, that she really has a vision for how the world should be and a sense of right and wrong and justice. And that really stirs something in him because that's definitely what he's been lacking and he knows that he needs, and it inspires him. So if you can find a way for your characters to complement each other in these kinds of ways, it's really going to help establish a bond for the reader to get really invested in this story, to want to see these two people come together. And the second beat, circumstances bring them together. Of course, obviously, it's really important that your characters are brought together throughout the course of the story. You can't build on a relationship if they're not interacting with each other. And this is one of the things that I particularly find in, you know, maybe stories about war. And it depends. It can be done really well. Like, let's say that one of them goes off to another country for a long time. I've seen stories where I wasn't fully invested in it because there wasn't enough interaction between the two, but then I've also seen it done really well. Maybe letters that they're sending back and forth to each other, or phone calls, or memories, you know, maybe it's flashbacks, and you're having the interaction in that way told in the past. Whatever it is, you definitely want to make sure that throughout your story you have enough chance meetings, encounters, or whether it's intentional, like Henry, for example, when he's intentionally seeking out and asking around, trying to figure out where Danielle, or the Comtesse, lives. And one thing I really enjoy about Ever After are all of the ways that you could see things are about to go wrong. And so if you can incorporate some of those missed opportunities, then it's going to create a really nice effect throughout your story. So the selfless act and change of perspective, I thought that this one was really interesting because it was a beat that I specifically wrote down when I was studying Pride and Prejudice. However, I do feel that you could potentially interchange this with a romantic gesture. You know, I feel like it's essentially the same thing. The romantic gesture is just that turning point for the two characters to realize their affections for each other. So then number 4, we've got the bad guys keep them apart beat. I've heard this described in general fiction story structure as the bad guys closing in beat, but I think in romance it's important to differentiate that it really is about keeping our two heroes apart, keeping this couple apart. And then we come to maybe the most important beat that I've seen in pretty much any love story, I don't care, or just any story with a romantic subplot of any kind. It always has this beat, and it is the betrayal, where one or both of the characters feel betrayed by the other one. You know, either it's a lie that the one told, and maybe it was an innocent lie, maybe they lied to, you know, protect the other one, whatever it is. Maybe they're just not being honest about the situation, but this is going to create conflict in the story, because obviously without conflict, there is no story, there is no, you know, what will happen, there's no question for the audience. So come up with some sort of betrayal, but this is an important story element to have if you're writing a romance. And then we have the all is lost beat, and this is when the audience doesn't know how the two are going to make it back to each other. They don't know how this is all going to end. It seems like there is no hope. This is usually the time where they do the most soul searching and they discover the most about themselves. And then we have one final conflict, and this is after the lowest point for our characters. There's usually one last hurrah, one last thing that they have to overcome in order to either be together or live happily ever after. There's that one event. So in the case of Ever After, we actually have sort of 2 events. The first one is she's sold to Monsieur Le Pew, and she gets herself out of there. She threatens him and says, I'm gonna slit your throat, you're gonna let me out of here. And then the other scene is she confronts her stepmother. So this is the woman that's been essentially torturing her, emotionally abusing her whole life, and she confronts her, and it's just such a powerful scene. I love it, but it's sort of that just one last that really solidifies the transformation of the character. So that final conflict is going to be the moment where the transformation is evident to the audience. The character arc is complete. So not only do we see Danielle transforming into a royal, but we also see Henry really transforming and stepping into the shoes of the person that he's meant to be, and really accepting the responsibility of, you know, his birthright, and taking it upon himself to, with Danielle by his side, make the world a better place. And then, of course, it doesn't hurt to have some amazing, heartwarming dialogue in your story.
Milady, it is your mouth that has me hypnotized. She is my match in every way. Please tell me I haven't lost her.
So that's all I have for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that it was helpful. And let me know what your favorite romances are. I'm really interested to see if your favorites are the same as mine, if we have some that overlap, because I love talking about romance, if you couldn't already tell. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.